Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us. It is September 9th, 2024. This is a meeting of the Mayor and Council of Princeton, New Jersey. Could we have the meeting statement? Oh, sorry. Let me tell a joke till Raina gets to the chair. Raina, could we have the meeting statement, please?
Yes. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act, including the time, date, and location of the meeting. In addition, the agenda and all related materials were posted electronically and made available to the public on Princeton's meeting portal in advance of the meeting.
Thank you. I'll read the land acknowledgement. We gather today on the land of the Lenni Lenape. As members of the Princeton community, we aspire to show appreciation, respect, and concern for all peoples and our environment. We honor the Lenape and other indigenous caretakers of these lands and waters, and the elders who have lived here before, the indigenous today, and the generations to come. Can we have roll call, please?
Ms. Perron-Lambros?
Here.
Ms. Niedergain is excused. Mr. Cohen?
Here.
Ms. Sachs?
Here.
Ms. Fraga?
Here.
Mr. Newland?
Aki.
Mayor Frida?
Present.
You have quorum.
Thank you. If you'd like to stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. Got a number of nice things coming up. First up, we have a proclamation celebrating Welcoming Week, and Leighton, I think that's yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Proclamation from the Office of the Mayor, Municipality of Princeton. Proclamation celebrating Welcoming Week 2024. Whereas our Princeton community's success depends on making sure that all residents feel welcome here. Today, new residents are a vital part of our community, bringing fresh perspectives and new ideas, starting businesses, and contributing to the vibrant diversity that we all value. And whereas this week we honor the spirit of unity that is bringing neighbors together across Princeton. During Welcoming Week, I invite all residents of Princeton to join this movement of communities nationwide by renewing our commitment to our core American values and by taking action in the spirit of welcoming. By working together, we can achieve greater prosperity and make our community the kind of place where diverse people from around the world feel valued and want to put down roots. And whereas, regardless of where we are born or what we look like, we are residents of Princeton, united in our efforts to build a stronger Princeton. By recognizing the contributions that we all make to create a vibrant culture and a growing economy, we make our community more prosperous and more inclusive to all who call it home. And whereas, let us come together to build communities where every resident has the opportunity to create at his or her best. Let us come together to create more prosperous communities and to reaffirm that Princeton still stands as a beacon of freedom and opportunity. Now, therefore, I, Mark Frieda, Mayor of the Municipality of Princeton and the Council of Princeton, County of Mercer, State of New Jersey, do hereby proclaim the week of September 13th through September 22nd, 2024, Welcoming Week. I call upon the people of Princeton to join together to build stronger communities across New Jersey. Given under my hand and seal, this 9th day of September 2024, Mark Frieda, Mayor, Princeton, New Jersey.
Thank you, Leighton. Leticia.
Thank you. So I'll have the honor of reading a proclamation observing September 15th through October 15th, 2024 as Hispanic Heritage Month. Whereas National Hispanic Heritage Month is observed each year from September 15th through October 15th to celebrate the histories, cultures, and contributions of those living in America whose ancestors came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central and South America. Bless you. And whereas the theme for 2024 is Pioneers of Change, Shaping the Future Together, and whereas the observation of National Hispanic and Latino Heritage Month began in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week under President Lyndon Johnson and was expanded by President Ronald Reagan in 1988 to cover a 30-day period starting on September 15th and ending on October 15th. And whereas the day of September 15th is significant because it is the anniversary of independence for the Latin American countries of Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. In addition, Mexico and Chile celebrate their Independence Days on September 16th and September 18th, respectively. Finally, Day of the Races, or Dia de la Raza, which is observed October 9th, falls within the 30-day period, and whereas the Hispanic and Latino community has helped build and strengthen our society for generations at every level in government, science, business, culture, sports, education, and the arts, and whereas Hispanic and Latino Americans represent a significant and fast-growing demographic, and we honor the invaluable ways they contribute to our community as friends, family members, teachers, elected officials, essential workers, co-workers, and much more, and whereas Princeton Municipality hereby commits to highlighting the rich diversity of peoples and histories within the Latino community. Now, therefore, I, Leticia Fraga, on behalf of Mark Frida, Mayor of the Municipality of Princeton, and the Council of Princeton, County of Mercer, State of New Jersey, do hereby proclaim September 15th through October 15th, 2024, as Hispanic Heritage Month, and call upon the people of Princeton to join in this special observance by seeking out celebrations, educational programs, and community activities to learn more about the role of Hispanic and Latino Americans have played in our nation's history. I'm going to follow that as a prelude to this year's Hispanic Heritage Month celebration. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce a remarkable group that has already made its mark in Princeton, enriching our community with cultural awareness, education, and pure joy through their music. Esteban Juarez Gonzalez, a proud native of East Los Angeles and a current student at Princeton University, harnessed his passion for mariachi music to establish Mariachi Los Tigres de Princeton, the first officially recognized mariachi student group on campus. Alongside Catherine Ruiz, they have been instrumental in recruiting other students, and starting in 2022, teaching and performing mariachi music on campus and also at community building events, fostering a deeper appreciation for this beautiful and traditional Mexican folk music. Members of Mariachi Los Tigres de Princeton joining us tonight are Esteban Juarez Gonzalez, Ashley Kim, Emily Leon, Donahi Mendieta Silva, Hector Cueva Becerra, Istle Montufar, Catherine Hernandez Ware, Jorge Reyes, Isabela Bustos, and Kiara Arteaga. On behalf of the Municipality of Princeton, along with the Mayor and Council, I want to extend our heartfelt thanks for your dedication and the vibrant passion you bring to our performances, which beautifully celebrate our rich Mexican culture and heritage. Muchísimas gracias a todos ustedes.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm Esteban Gonzalez. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. I'm studying chemical and biological engineering at Princeton University, and I'm currently a junior. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's such an honor to receive this recognition. Mariachi has been a part of my life since I was 8 years old. It connects me to my family, as my father and my brothers also play. I'm super happy to have brought this tradition here to the Princeton community, as it not only celebrates culture, but it also brings people together over a shared platform of music. And I'm super happy to have brought this music to Princeton and hope to continue sharing this music with the community and building more bonds with the people. And on the behalf of Mariachi Los Tigres of Princeton, thank you so much, and we can't wait to continue doing more work with you. Thank you.
Ray, I gave the proclamation to Jeff. Okay.
Thank you. Take care. Okay, we're not done. We still have another proclamation. The proclamation celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Center for Modern Aging, Princeton. And Michelle will take us through that, please.
Right. So proclamation, Office of the Mayor, Municipality of Princeton. Proclamation honoring the Center for Modern Aging, Princeton, on the occasion of their 50th anniversary. Whereas the Center for Modern Aging has acted as a catalyst for mobilizing the creativity, energy, vitality, and commitment of the older residents of Princeton since September 1974, when it was founded as Tenant Services in Spruce Circle, and which continued as it later evolved into the Princeton Center Senior Resource Center. And whereas, through the wide array of services, programs, and activities offered, the Center for Modern Aging Princeton empowers older adults of Princeton to contribute to their own health and well-being and the health and well-being of their fellow citizens of all ages. And whereas the Center for Modern Aging Princeton has been a community partner in ensuring that older adults in our community are able to stay connected, safe, and healthy. And whereas the Center for Modern Aging Princeton affirms the dignity, self-worth, and independence of older persons by facilitating their decisions and actions, tapping their experiences, skills, and knowledge, and enabling their continued contributions to the community. And whereas the National Council on Aging has designated September 2024 National Senior Center Month, and whereas we further recognize the dedication and tireless efforts of the Center of Modern Aging Princeton staff, volunteers, and supporters who have made this milestone possible. Their compassion, empathy, and unwavering commitment to the older residents, adult residents of our community have transformed countless lives and inspired hope for the future. And whereas we honor the Center for Modern Aging Princeton's legacy of service and innovation, we reaffirm our commitment to supporting older adults and their families as they navigate the journey of aging. Together, may we continue to build a world where aging is embraced and older adults are valued for the richness of their experiences and contributions. Now I, Michelle Perrin-Lambros, on behalf of Mark Frieda, Mayor of the Municipality of Princeton, and the Council of Princeton, County of Mercer, State of New Jersey, do hereby proclaim that on this auspicious occasion for the Center for Modern Aging Princeton's 50th anniversary, we celebrate its steadfast commitment to enhancing the lives of older adults and their families. We commend the Center for Modern Aging of Princeton for its invaluable contributions to our community, for championing the cause of active, healthy, and engaged aging. Given under my seal and my hand and seal this 9th day of September, Mark Frieda, Mayor.
On behalf of our board chair, Joan Gerges, and all of the board and staff of Center for Modern Aging Princeton, we are incredibly grateful for the continued partnership that we have with the municipality, your commitment to serving the older adult residents, and the future that we have in store to see another 50 years of great service and innovation as we serve the older adult residents of this community. So thank you, and we look forward to celebrating with many of you on Thursday night for our 50th anniversary gala celebration. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and next up, announcements and reports. Any council members with announcements or reports for this evening? Okay, great. Glad to see that. Isaac Kremer, Executive Director of Experience Princeton, is here to tell us what's happening.
Hello, Mayor. Good to see you tonight. Again, Isaac Kramer, Executive Director, Experience Princeton. 4 things we worked on last month, 4 we're doing this month, and 1 big item for you to know about, as usual. So, to lead off, the Princeton Monthly e-blast that went out on September 3rd had 4,469 sends and 2,058 opens. That's our second most opened of the 23 we've put out, and 187 clicks. We completed an 8-week internship with a high school student, Savara Sangavi. She interviewed over 60 businesses and employees on their parking, how they handled that, and we're working to get all that data together with an executive summary that we're going to be sharing, which hopefully will inform some of our future discussions on that issue. She also assisted with the rollout of the direct install program for businesses. We also had a kickoff of the work with our planning consultant on updating allowable uses, and I was really pleased to see some of the emails going back and forth today, connecting both with staff, but also with our elected officials, so we can really take a cooperative approach to updating those rules and making it welcoming for the types of businesses that want to open here. We've projected about a 5-month period in which to complete that work. And last but not least, we had the ribbon cutting for the Corcoran Group at 195 Nassau Street. Gorgeous location with some really wonderful, innovative rotating art exhibits in there too. So really enjoyed that. It was standing room only for that event last week. So 4 things we're doing this month. We're finalizing our annual report, and we'll release that digitally and also in print when we're complete. You may recall the one we did last year. We're planning an Experience Princeton meetup at the Princeton Symphony Orchestra headquarters, newly located at 1000 Herrontown Road on September 26th at 4 p.m. Of course, you're all invited. Our Shop Local to Win sweepstakes is going to begin October 28th and run for 8 weeks. So whenever someone shops in a local business during that period of time and shares a receipt, they're going to be entered into a drawing for a $1,000 prize each week and a $1,500 grand prize when it ends. So this is really to encourage people to shop local, especially as we lead into the holiday season. And last but not least, our fall local banners are getting ready to be installed. So to wrap up, one big thing to let you all know about, our board is meeting next week, and we're hoping to finalize the work plan. Each team has weighed in and provided different goals and objectives for the upcoming year through June 30th, when our fiscal year ends, and we're preparing to provide quarterly progress reports to businesses and stakeholders on our success with implementation, and that'll include the mayor and council. So you'll be able to see each quarter our progress towards the goals in the work plan. With that, that's my report.
Isaac, thank you. Do we have any questions for Isaac? Yeah.
Thanks, Isaac. I'm just wondering if in all of those goals and priorities at the top of, hopefully towards the top of the list is dealing with the pervasive waste issue in the center of town?
Yes, we're very much aware of the trash and recycling issues, and also cleanliness in general. We've had multiple meetings this summer on that, including with the engineering department and others. And we're also aware of some of the ideas and suggestions that have been brought forward from engineering, from the town planner and others. So we're taking all of that into consideration. I don't think there's a silver bullet solution for that, but definitely we've heard that that's a priority.
So I just want to put out there that the town has asked nicely, and so now we're beyond the asking nicely phase. And, you know, we really need for the businesses to work together to come up with a solution, whether that's a collective time for pickup or whatever it is. But one of the things I will say that I personally looked forward to in voting to support a special improvement district was coordinated action on things such as waste. So I hope that we can see some action on that.
Great, thank you for your feedback.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Isaac, thank you very much for being here tonight. All right. Next up, second quarter report on the 2024 Mayor and Council goals and priorities. Jeff?
Thanks, Mayor. Good evening, members of council. I'll start things off, and then I'll hand things over to Deputy Administrator Deanna Stockton. As you recall, the strategic priorities and departmental goals were initially discussed in January and then reviewed at a council work session in February. Although on tonight's agenda, the goals update is stipulated as a second quarter update, administration is going to be providing Mayor and Council with more of a third quarter update on progress thus far. The update this evening will be a synopsis of the year with more detail in the agenda packet. As you recall, this year, the goal-setting process was restructured, wherein departments set their own goals within the council's overarching priorities. Keeping a higher-level mindset with goal setting and progress tracking facilitated the successful execution of municipal goals and priorities. Those priorities were broken up into 6 overarching themes that Mayor and Council have agreed upon with staff support. These themes and priorities for the municipality are as follows: social equity, resilience and climate action, transit, streetscape, and parking, affordability, good governance, and land use planning for the built environment. We'll briefly touch on the department's work towards those goals, and then we'll leave room for clarification or questions at the end. Looking at the Department of Health and Community Services, all of our departments remain committed to various cross-departmental goals. Notably, Health and Human Services have been continuing to collaborate on various initiatives to integrate Catholic Charities, also known as Princeton Integrated Behavioral Health, into municipal operations. The new CARES Committee also began meeting this May. The structure of the new committee allows for cross-disciplinary collaboration and offers a nimbler and more effective way to address multifaceted social justice issues facing our municipality. The group has met monthly thus far and has already created subcommittees focused specifically on mayor and council's strategic priorities. Looking at the health department, all necessary documentation for national reaccreditation were submitted in June, pending a review and site visit. The mayor's wellness campaign is also in full swing, looking at events on harm reduction, including a mental health awareness month flag raising with Catholic Charities and Narcan training with PFARs, plus other activities with Princeton Public Library. We've also implemented Governor Murphy's recent rental lead law, which we've seen over 200 lead inspections. This legislation commits to health equity, where children are protected from lead hazards on an even playing field, specifically with primary prevention in mind. Looking at human services and the affordable housing offices, they've ramped up their outreach by teaming up with community partners like Catholic Charities. They're referring individuals to them for case management, which includes rapid rehousing and rental assistance. They've also seamlessly incorporated 8 youth programs into their department. Human Services has also been strategically spending this year's emergency housing funds from Princeton University to support residents dealing with homelessness. They're also putting opioid settlement funds to work for prevention and treatment and recovery, with a stronger focus on social equity. And from the Affordable Housing Office, they've updated the Community Development Block Grant Annual Plan, and they're also working on building a list of contractors for Princeton's Home Improvement Program. And lastly, with recreation, they're wrapping up one of their busiest years with over 75,000 visitors to Community Park Pool. And regarding CP South, they're awaiting design service proposals for the park reconstruction, which are due September 18th. They're also waiting for approval to use the remaining Mercer Play Grant funding for playground upgrades at Smoyer Park. And the funding would allow them to install an inclusive playground at the park either later this year or early next year. At this point, I'll turn it over to Deputy Administrator Deanna Stockton for her update from the Department of Infrastructure and Operations.
Thank you, Jeff. Beginning on page 15 of the agenda packet is a detailed update on the various goals and priorities within the Department of Infrastructure and Operations, which is comprised of sewer, public works, engineering, parking, buildings and ground, fleet, urban tree, and open space. To highlight a few of our different projects on the mobility and infrastructure projects, we have tonight with us Dave Lusberg with the group Arterial to discuss the Nassau Streetscape design project. That is on schedule and looking to be in construction next year. We have are submitting plans to put projects out to bid for the Cherry Hill Road Side Path Extension, Dickinson Alexander University Place, and the Terhune Road Improvement Project, which is from Grover to Harrison Street. Additionally, we are continuing to work on the Hamilton Avenue Corridor project, the Harrison Street Corridor project, and we've kicked off the transit mobility study. Under the category of environmental, we continue to work on stormwater system mapping and stormwater mitigation plans. We actually will be at the planning board in October to ratify the stormwater mitigation plan as part of the master plan. And we continue to look at opportunities to make improvements in open spaces like Mountain Lakes Preserve, and working with those groups to do replanting projects and other infrastructure improvements. On the sewer front, we continue to work on our inflow and infiltration projects to reduce the clean water that is moving into our sanitary system requiring treatment. And our tree canopy assessment project continues to be on track. We're looking at preliminary numbers coming in the next few weeks so that we see what has occurred with the tree canopy over the last 10 years. Moving into the facilities group, we're wrapping up a Heinz Plaza concept plan with Arterial as well. We will be coming to an upcoming council meeting to present that concept plan. As Jeff mentioned, we're working with Recreation on the Community Park South Design Contracting Project, and we're working preliminarily on Grover Park improvements as well. One notable success for the year already that's been made is the adoption of the outdoor dining permit process and new code, and we've actually also crossed a hurdle with DOT in getting their authorization to move ahead with outdoor dining on the state highway. So that was a good step forward in the last couple of months. With that, I can answer any questions on any of our goals and priorities for 2024 or turn it back to Jeff.
Okay. Well, let me thank you both for giving us all the update on that. I mean, the whole process is pretty important, and it's good to see that we're all moving together on following the goals and priorities. Council, questions or comments? Michelle.
Thank you. It's always amazing to me the amount of work, product that our staff is able to accomplish, and kudos for bringing this back to us. I really like getting these updates. I really think it's important to keep tabs on our goals and our progress, so thank you very much to both of you, to the whole staff. One question, I just want to make sure under facilities that we don't lose sight. We did a facilities study, and I just want to make sure that we don't lose sight of making sure we address the underutilized public properties that we have. I know there's a lot of work that's being done right now, but I just want to make sure that that doesn't get dropped. I know that was on the original goals, so I just wanted to mention that. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions or comments? Mia.
So, for the LPR policy creation, it says waiting for state guidelines. I know and maybe this is a Trishka question, but I know we were, when this issue came up before, there was quite a bit of concern expressed by the local residents about the use of that information and how long it would be held and who would have access to it, and we agreed we were going to pass the ACLU and other civil liberties organizations have model templates for that municipalities can pass, which would provide some constraints. Have we passed? Where are we with that? I know we haven't passed it. I think I remember, but is it in progress?
Lisa Maddox from my office has been working closely with engineering and with the police on this, because there are also, the Attorney General's office has also issued a number of directives and guidelines to police departments for how they use the information. But it was important that we coordinate our efforts on the parking end, public contracting end with the department and make sure that anything we're doing is consistent with the state. So it's in progress.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And Chief Tash is working with us now and making the connections into the state folks. Our position is that in the parking department, this information is not connected to any databases that will tie a license plate to a person. It's merely a photograph and a timestamp of a license plate so that we can track if that license plate is still in that same location, say 2 hours past. And that's the clarification we've been trying to work on, is to distinguish it from LPR systems that the police department use, which are connected into those various databases. So it's all part and parcel of the same thing, to make sure that the state agrees with our distinction of the systems and to see if they are issuing specific regulations to our type of use in the parking department. And then that will follow with the protocol that's written with the data management.
Clearly, there's a lot of thought and effort that's going into this. So I know when we get to that point of discussing the systems, I know it will be reassuring to the residents who are concerned about this. So thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Yeah, Mayor, I just wanted to echo what Michelle started off saying, that it is fascinating to me as you look at municipal government and you see, on a daily basis, I think I'm plugged into everything that's going on, but when I read a comprehensive report like that, I just want to say thank you to Team Princeton, starting with Bernie, our legal team, Jeff, Deanna, Jim, Justin, I'm going to forget somebody, but everybody who has anything to do with us doing business here in Princeton. You are an outstanding group of individuals. Thank you for your advocacy and your work. It's much appreciated.
Can
And
I say
just
ditto?
Let the people on online here, and if you're online and you're listening to this, tell somebody. Thank you.
Can I say what he said? Ditto?
Okay. All right, I think we're done with that. Thank you very much again. Public hearing. Public hearing re-award of new Hotel Motel 36 Planetary Retail Consumption Liquor License. So,
Mayor, would you like me to just
would you please
give a 2-second overview of what we're doing?
Yes.
So this all relates to the Graduate Hotel, for which you are issuing what is, the shorthand is a hotel motel license. It is treated like a new plenary retail consumption license in town, albeit limited to a very specific use. And there's a 3-step process in order to issue one of these types of licenses. First, and you did this, I'm going to forget now at which meeting, but the first step is you pass a resolution basically announcing your intent to do this and soliciting applications. And providing a deadline. Once the deadline is met, whatever applications you've received, and I'll ask our clerk to confirm that you only ever received the one, correct? The council then, at a public hearing, evaluates those applications, determines to whom to award the license. Step 3 then is following a public hearing to actually issue the license. And the reason those are done in 2 separate steps is that there are times where the applications come in, you award, but it's a provisional award contingent upon the successful applicant then passing the background check, everything else. In this situation, as our clerk just confirmed, Highgate Hotels, which operates the Graduate Hotel, was the only applicant. That application was already vetted and, thoroughly everything was noticed. So although you're doing 2 separate resolutions, you are able to do them sequentially on the same night. And I guess the final question I would ask the clerk for the record and the benefit of the council is whether any objections were submitted either to the award or to the issuance.
No objections were received.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so just help me as I look through the agenda. Both item number 1 and number 3 are labeled public hearing.
Correct.
So we're having 2 public hearings here?
Because you're doing 2 different things. These public hearings
Thank you.
are a formality, so it's simply open it to the public, see if
Yep.
anyone has a comment, award, and then do the same thing with the next one.
Got it. Just want to make sure we do it right. Thank you. Okay. Any council comments on this before we ask for public input?
No. Do we need a motion on anything first?
Oh, do you think that would help?
If you like,
I
would
think
be
you're
happy
right.
to move. I would like to make a motion to.
Go do
approve that, yeah.
Michelle's got the
To
motion.
approve, yeah.
Thank you. We'll get through it. I'm sorry, Letitia beat you to it. Letitia's got the second. Did you have a question, or did you want a second? Just excited. I hear you. All right. Any questions or comments up here? Okay, public comment on the first public hearing on this.
Good evening, Dottie Belinsky. I'm an attorney with Fakery Drinker. I just want to let you know I'm here tonight. I'm here on behalf of Highgate Hotels for the hotel. So if anybody from the public or anybody on the committee has any questions, just let me know on any of the 4 agenda items. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so what we're voting on is actually the resolution, 24266? Okay. So I just want to, so Michelle, I'm going to read the title of the resolution so we can attach it to your motion, just so we have it correct for the minutes. So it's 24266, resolution of the Mayor and Council of Princeton awarding a new planetary retail consumption liquor license to Highgate Hotels LP pursuant to the Hotel Motel 36 exception set forth in NJSA 33-1-12.20 for premises known as the Graduate Hotel, Graduate Princeton. And that's Michelle's motion, which was seconded by Leticia. I just want to make sure there's no other public comment from anybody either in the room or on Zoom. All right, seeing none, I'll close that public hearing. All in, oh, that should be a roll call vote, I imagine. Doesn't have to be? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, so now we're going to have another public hearing, and that's going to be on Resolution 24267, resolution of the Mayor and Council of Princeton authorizing the issuance of a planetary retail consumption liquor license to Highgate Hotels LP pursuant to the Hotel Motel 36 exception set forth in NJSA 33-1-12.20 for premises known as the Graduate Hotel, Graduate Princeton. And do you want to tell me what the difference is between the two of them, since they're worded almost exactly or maybe exactly alike?
One is awarding the license, the other is issuing the license.
Okay, thank you. Perfect. I just wanted to make sure there was
And
actually
I'm not saying that like with sarcasm or anything, that really is the only difference.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I was following what we were doing. Okay, would someone like to, Michelle, thanks. Going to move that? Leticia is going to second that. So let's start up here. Any questions or comments?
I have one comment, and that is we are not familiar with doing this because the laws in the state do not allow us to do this very often. If they would change it, we would be more familiar with the whole process. Just thought I'd point that out.
I think 100-year-old laws are very good. They should never change. All right, any other comments? All right, public comment? Anyone in the audience or anybody on Zoom that wants to comment on this? All right, we'll close the public hearing. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, that's everybody on both. That is done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
On behalf of the hotel, thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we have 5 sets of minutes. Does somebody want to move all of them together? Leticia, are you moving them all together? David's seconding them. Michelle?
And I'm going to abstain from the first 3 for being absent.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Been moved and seconded. So all in favor, noting Michelle's abstention on the first 3, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the abstention for Michelle is on the numbers 1, 2, and 3.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, next up is public comments for items not on the agenda. If anybody in the room or on Zoom wants to make a statement or ask a question about something that's not on the agenda, this is the time to do it. All right, nobody in the room, nobody on Zoom. We'll close that part of the meeting. Next up is a work session, review of the Nassau Streetscape, Chambers Street to Moore Street, design components of Material, Inc. All right.
Thank you, Mayor. With us tonight is Dave Lusberg from Arterial. He will be providing an overview of where we are in the design process. As you're aware, we started a concept planning process back in 2023 with Arterial for improvements to the pedestrian space on Nassau Street. A concept plan was presented to council at the July 24th, 2023 council meeting. And in January this year, council adopted a resolution to have a professional service agreement with Arterial. Arterial has been progressing through the design process. We're at approximately 75% completion of design. And so Dave is here to provide updates as to where we are and on some of the refinements to the scope and to materials that are included in this project, and to also briefly look at where we are in the budget process as well, related to what the initial estimates were. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Dave. Yep, there you go.
We're good? Okay. How's that? Good?
Yeah, just try to keep it close to you because the people on Zoom won't be able to hear you if you're not speaking close to it. Thanks.
Just do this. Alrighty, let me know. Well, thank you. Thank you, Deanna. Thank you, Mayor and members of the council for your time tonight. So I will, as Deanna mentioned, we've been hard at work developing the plans for the Nassau Street Streetscape in coordination with the engineering department and a number of other stakeholder groups, et cetera. And so what we're going to present to you tonight is the current state of the plans. We could discuss the details of that, the budget, the schedule, et cetera. Okay. So just as a reminder, the limits of the project are Nassau Street from Chambers Street to Moore Street, and the majority of the improvements are occurring on the town side of the street, on the north side, to the sidewalk area, with the exception of certain intersections, which will include intersection improvements that span across Nassau Street to the other side of the street. So a little just refresher. I know we've been here before, but just a refresher on the schedule. This really started back in 2016 when there were guidelines established for the street. That was refined and a test implementation was done. Following that, there were some concept refinements that we worked on with the town and the engineering department. Then January 2024, we entered into schematic design, which is really where you start getting into the detail and hardlining things. In February, we had a very important site walk that was with SHPO. So we met SHPO on site and we walked the length of the street and we discussed what they felt were the historically significant aspects of the street that we had to sort of consider. In May, we really launched full-fledged into construction documents, full design documents, and ultimately we're targeting spring 2025 for a construction kickoff. And we're on track for that currently. So this whole process started through really a public process. We had many stakeholder meetings with several different groups. We have hosted the public open house about a year ago, which I'm sure many of you attended, where we showed boards, we sort of met with constituents, discussed design ideas and sort of the initial concepts. There was also an online survey following that to gather additional information. Through some of the stakeholder meetings, you can see here, this is a list of the key stakeholders that we met with, and what some of their interests were. So starting with Experience Princeton, they discussed shade, public art, covered bike parking, additional seating, and creating really experiential nodes along the street for people to sit and gather. The Office of Emergency Management, they were really concerned about functionality, truck turning radii, emergency vehicles, et cetera. The DPW discussed having new trees and creating proper planting environments for those trees. Trash pickup was also discussed. Princeton University was really focused on safety and making the crossings safe. The HPC, this initial meeting, was really discussed playing off Witherspoon Street using a similar color palette so that it didn't look entirely different, that they sort of worked together. Disability awareness, making sure that all the corners were ADA compliant, the ramps, that there were no heaving pavers and sort of bluestone pavers and things like that. And then the property owners, always the number one concern is parking, maintaining parking, additional seating and activity, and really creating a place that's comfortable to be and that properly represents Princeton. So additional now in 2024, we had that more detailed meeting with SHPO that I discussed. Their focus really was that, they felt that the really historically significant period on that corridor was prior to the streetscape that's in there now. So everything that's sort of constructed now is not from that historically significant period. That being said, they always support replacing materials in kind where possible, et cetera. Additional meetings with property owners. We've met with DOT to discuss the various improvements in the process. And then just most recently, just a few weeks ago, we met with HPC, with the HPC, and presented this concept to them and got a sort of memo back from them on sort of their feelings towards it. And here we are today. So just a refresher on how, the approach to the design. Really the vision was to respect the historic context of the downtown and of Princeton, to make sure that the design is timeless, that it's not really of any period, so that it really feels fresh, even 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now. And community, focusing on creating a gathering place for the community through proper seating and encouraging that social atmosphere on the street. So now I'll just start to walk through the design. So first, the materials palette. And I'll show you how all of this applies through plans and renderings afterwards. So first, the sidewalk itself, the paving material of the sidewalk itself. So, we try to be cost efficient with these improvements. So we want to, typically the corners are where most of the gathering happens. So that's where we like to invest a little bit more money. So the main paving material for the sidewalks, for what I would call mid-block, between the corners, will be scored concrete. It'll be poured tinted concrete with a finish that will be scored in a flag pattern, which I'll show you what that looks like, but that's almost looks like large pieces of staggered bluestone. The highlight material that'll be used at the corners and along the edges will be this granite paver that you see here, granite paver highlights. And this is actually a photo from the Princeton University campus. So this is a contextual material that provides richness, really a sense of permanence. So that will be used at the corners and along the curb edge as a highlight. Granite sets will be used adjacent to the tree pits as a permeable paver to allow for additional water to get to the roots of the trees. The corners will use the standard tactile paver that you see out there today, which is a steel paver, a steel tactile paver. And then finally, we will have these engraved, highlighted granite bands that will occur at the tree pits. And this can denote anything from events that the town would like to celebrate, historic moments, or it could just be branded for Princeton and kept simple. So however the town deems the best way to move forward with that, the opportunity is there. And I'll point that out to you in a little more detail. Did you have a question?
Yeah, just on the concrete, it looks from this image like it's an exposed aggregate.
Yes.
Is that what you're proposing?
We haven't finalized what the surface is going to be yet, so we're kind of working through that with the engineering group. But every time we really feel like that finish is important because it's very wide sidewalks. There's a lot of it.
I have to agree.
We walked it today, and we looked at it again today, and we're trying to decide, is this, what is the proper tint, what is the proper finish. So we're not quite there yet, but right now, at a minimum, it will be a tinted concrete that's scored. Whether or not there is a specialty finish on top, like an exposed aggregate, is still to be determined.
Okay. I'm going to put in a vote for exposed aggregate. I think it really is a more elegant look on the material. So
Okay.
Okay,
Great.
can I ask, so the exposed aggregate would look more like the pebbly thing that we kind of see today. What we want to avoid is what we did between Barrett and Bank, which looks very industrial and doesn't look like our brand at all.
Yes.
So I know we've talked about this and, so.
Yeah.
So I agree with
That is,
David.
that's,
Didn't know what was
that is
called, but-
noted, and
yeah.
that is, I think one of our top
Thank you.
challenges is getting that right, or one of the top things we're trying to address is getting that finish right, so. And trying to find the balance between, cost, maintenance, and finish. That's the goal.
and try to avoid buyer's remorse.
Oh, I know, yep. Okay. So in terms of the furniture palette, we looked through a number of different styles of furnishings, and just generally speaking, furniture is, when we're designing streetscapes, furniture is where we can deviate a little bit and be a little bit more creative, a little bit more modern if we want to, because furniture, not that we want to replace it regularly, but furniture is sort of the least permanent aspect of a streetscape, and it's typically updated over time. So the number one thing that we think about when we're selecting furniture is durability, right? We want long-term durability. We want variety in seating, right? So if you look at the suite that you see here of seating, there's a backed bench, there is a backless bench, and there's what we refer to as a cube bench, which is a single seat. So it's a 2x2 single seat. So this is a family of benches that allows you to have that flexibility to create these social situations for groupings, which I'll show you what I mean by that. But and then obviously design, style. We want it to be appropriate. So there are a number of factors that we think about when we're selecting a furniture palette like this. Next is a bicycle rack. We find these to be the simplest and most effective, the inverted U bicycle rack. Trash receptacle, and this is a trash receptacle that we selected that works with this suite of furniture, but we're still working with the engineering department on finalizing the actual receptacle. Many of you may know a lot goes into the selection of a receptacle between functionality and cleanliness and operations and volume. So this is where we are right now, but we're vetting some different options with the engineering department as well. But style-wise, we'll be in this realm. And then raised planters, and this is just a nice, simple concrete planter that we've used before. It's great quality and very nice, sleek design. Okay, so now looking at how these different finishes apply to the streetscape. So this is a typical corner. So this is what I mentioned about spending a little bit more money on the corner for materials, right? So the corners, this sort of fuchsia color, the infill will be this granite paver. So the corners will be fully granite. The ramps themselves will have the concrete and then the tactile pavers. And then at each corner, we're trying to integrate some amount of green or landscaping at each of the corners, just to give a little punch of color and to sort of soften that edges a little bit. The other thing is it's also for safety, that it sort of funnels people to the crosswalks. So that's what you see here in green. So this is the typical organization of a corner. Yes?
Yeah. So I just want to point out that a lot of times these curb bump outs have a functional aspect, which is to shorten the crossing distance across the street. And so there are often crosswalks that will come into them, and obviously the planting doesn't make sense if there's a crosswalk landing there.
That's correct.
So, I hope we'll see at some point a plan for the length to see how realistic this, how much green are we getting once you take away the green where you have other crosswalks.
Yes, so that was another thing that we did today. Just before this meeting, we probably for the fourth or fifth time walked the length of the street and looked at each of those corners individually and to see how much between the turning radii and things, how much green we can actually fit at each corner, and if we want to expand it into the sidewalk area a little bit to give even a little more green space. So that is, it's noted, and we do have a plan that shows that, the overall plan of the street that we can chair, I'm sure.
I would love to see that.
Yeah.
David, we can sit down and go through it with you.
Thank you.
So then the mid-block treatment, right? So this color here, that's the main sidewalk width, right? So that is that scored concrete that you see here, and it's scored in a staggered flag pattern. So these are 3x6 rectangles, 3 foot by 6 foot rectangles, staggered, and that's a saw cut joint, which which makes the cut very clean, so it almost looks like a paver. It's not like the typical framed concrete that you're used to seeing. Granite curbs along the length. And then at the tree pits, on either side of the tree pits are these granite sets, which are permeable. So those are 4x4 small pieces of granite with the tree pit in the center of them. And so that creates a nice wide area where water can infiltrate. Below grade, there will be a system that prevents compaction of the soil. So it creates a nice big root zone beneath, and that's called a silvocell. So that's a structural piece that goes under the sidewalk so the soil does not get compacted. So these trees will be in an ideal situation. And then finally, on this front edge of the tree pit, that's where this engraved granite band will go. So you create these little moments where people can sit, and then on the front of the tree pit, there's some little educational component or something celebrating the history or something to that effect. So, and that can be 1 per block, it could be 2 per block, depending on how many we would like to have. So that is the setup of the interior of the sidewalk.
Can I chime in for a second?
Yes.
So on that engraved band, the timing seems perfect, that as we're doing this in preparation for the 250th, a lot of our Nassau Street was part of the Washington Rochambeau Trail. There's other historic markers. So, so we need to really, put our thinking caps on and do a little history research, but it might be a really great opportunity to highlight some of that history as you're going down Nassau Street. I think it would be pretty cool. So anyway, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and just in terms of, because we're discussing schedule, just in terms of that, when the project goes out to bid, we can put a generic assumption on those granite bands and to tell the contractor how to, so that the contractor can price it, so that you don't have to have that list necessarily day one. It could give a little more time, because I know that sometimes takes some time. Okay, then the typical alley crossing, and the photo here this is the Bank Street crossing, and this is pretty similar to how the crossings will be treated. So you can see on either side, there's the granite sets, which you see here in the photo of Bank Street, and then the crosswalk itself will be that scored, tinted concrete, same as the sidewalk. So basically, if you're not familiar with this crossing, you're going to cross, and this is actually flush. So the pedestrian cross is flush. There is not a curb ramp where you're ramping down to the street. Instead, the car comes up and over this sort of tabled crossing. Okay, so now I'll show a few renderings of what this might look like. So to point out the key things here, so this is the Witherspoon intersection here in front of us. So, we're looking towards the Witherspoon intersection. So here you can see in the foreground the main sidewalk field. This is that staggered bond pattern, 3 foot by 6 foot. Here you can see the variety of furniture, right? So this is the backless bench, and then here are 2 cubes. So you could imagine that if someone wanted to sit here and face this, they can actually use this to put their laptop on if they wanted to and sit this way. 2 people could face each other. So it gives a lot of flexibility in terms of the use of that space. And then you can see here in the distance at the corner, that's where those granite pavers pick up. And then along the edge here, which is behind the curb, that's also, if you can see that granite along the edge there. One thing that I'll note, in terms of, being just cost conscious about the project and trying to, deliver a really nice product, but also be sensitive to the budget. At one point, we had granite that you may have seen along the face of the buildings, which was a pretty wide swath of granite that ran the length of the building, the length of the streetscape in front of the buildings. We decided to remove that for a few reasons. There was constructability questions about it, construction phasing questions, and then also budget. So we ended up removing that, and that was a nice reduction on the budget, which I could get into more when we get to that. But I wanted to point that out here because in prior renderings, you probably saw that there. Okay, so now this is looking the other direction towards Witherspoon.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is a good time if we can go back to that
Sure.
last picture. Something I've been thinking about, and a few things that I made mention of in the conversation we had, was just a few things. The color of the granite, as we see going down Witherspoon Street from Nassau down toward Quarry Street, was great when we first started it. It looked great. But now, it doesn't look so good. And one of the things I commented on in our conversation was thinking about starting off with a deeper color so that there was less discoloration. I'm looking at the same thing here, and I see the same thing. This is very bright, damn near white, and what is it going to look like 4 or 5 months after it's done? That's number one. Just a question, though. Number two, these benches, they're beautiful, very eclectic, but if you're an old person or a young person with a child, you need a back on these benches. Number three, during this whole landscape I'm looking at here, I see absolutely no bicycle racks. And as I walk around Princeton, and I do often, and I sit down, bicycles are a pain in the butt. And you know why? Because for some reason, we have bicycle racks like there are all over the world, but people, they tend to allow people, the way they're designed, to leave their bikes there forever. And if you really pay attention to what's going on in Princeton, that's what we have. We have bikes that sit on bike racks forever because their design lends itself to that. So my request is, if we're going to make Princeton for the future, to look at the possibility of starting with a darker color so it doesn't discolor. Number two, benches strategically need to be positioned so that we have, I think, more for older people and younger people than we do for young people. I think benches need backs on them. And number three, we need more bike racks, and we need them soon, and we need them to be designed so that people don't leave their bikes there forever and ever. That's my comments.
Thank you. All great comments, and I can discuss those one at a time if...
Can I just ask, and maybe Michelle or Mark, because you both seem to know what Leighton was referring to, where exactly, what are we talking about? I know there was that hideous thing down at the end of Nassau, which which was the original attempt, which you mentioned in the timeline, which the town moved away from. Which is the part you're talking about that was discolored? Or that looked...
It's just, there's staining on it. It's a light color.
Where?
It's on Witherspoon Street.
It's just the
Started
street itself.
On Witherspoon, between top of Nassau and Hullfish.
It's all like,
The stuff that was recently put in.
yeah.
Yeah, where the track, you know, it's because of trash and stuff like that,
Trash
but
and truck traffic.
if it was darker, it wouldn't look so discolored.
Yeah, and it
Also, if maybe there wasn't so much trash put out and left there, as I mentioned earlier.
And it also needs to be power washed on a regular basis.
Right.
All right. Well, why don't we, thanks. I mean, I think we can all pop in with
just gotta
stuff.
say
I know
it,
I'm
man.
creating a list of things I want to say, but why don't we get through the presentation, but if people
Okay,
have...
I'll
quick
circle, I'll make sure
questions,
that I address
we'll
these
circle back and try to-
when we come to the end here. Okay, so some of them may be addressed as we move through this. So this is just the other view looking towards Witherspoon. So again, you can see that granite paver, the seating, the landscape at the bump outs, the granite pavers at the corners. So this, I think, is, maybe a little bit more along the lines of a nice seating pocket. So this is where we're now using the backed bench, which is one of the options in this family of benches, is this backed bench. And then we couple that with 2 single seats. So this can be a family sitting here, this can be someone sitting eating lunch, et cetera. So these little social pockets, there's like 2 or 3 of these per block, right? So these mid-block little seating pockets, this is where we want people to sit and stay and feel comfortable spending some time on the street. Now you can see that beneath those are these granite sets, right? So this is that pervious. So each of these seating areas has a sort of carpet below it that's the granite pavers that denotes that, and then the engraved paver along the face of the tree pit. Also, each tree pit will be enclosed with a black wrought iron fence, 18 inches tall, so that'll keep people and pets and trash out of the landscaped areas. So this is a view at Tiger Park. So this, at this point, there's a new bump out that's going in on either corner, and the island here is also being extended out the distance of that bump out. So there'll be an additional 4 to 6 feet of this sort of island area at the park. We will use that space to provide additional seating. So right now, the way that that space is set up, you can fit a single bench, where now we can actually turn that corner and create a nice little social situation here with 2 benches and then a backed bench, creating that little U shape. Again, coming back in with the planting to buffer and then realigning the crosswalks to make that crossing. This will be entirely granite as well. So this is a nice little gathering space. While I'm there, you know, I'm just going to mention about the granite, right? So just to be clear about the materials, the pavers that were used on Witherspoon Street are concrete unit pavers. That's not real granite. So what we're using here is actual real granite, the stone. So there's a lot more texture to it. So you're not going to see the gum and the staining as much. Number one, because there's texture to the paver, and number two, because it's a hard stone. It doesn't absorb that staining the same way. So that's why we use it at the corners and at the higher pedestrian areas. So here, where people are going to be hanging out, gathering a little, at the corners, et cetera, that's where that granite's being used.
Can I ask Deanna a question? To the point, yes, granite is, that's why people use it on their kitchen counters for the reasons you described. But, and you just said that granite is used in high traffic areas. So why didn't we use it on Witherspoon Street? Were we trying to save money and now we maybe should have spent a little more money and...
Yeah, it would be a lot more. It's a very expensive material in the quantity that we would have been using on Witherspoon Street. So the concrete is sealed. Yes, it will require more maintenance where we will have to go and reseal it periodically after. This is the concrete pavers, where we will clean it and reseal it periodically. But it's also, Witherspoon Street is a different animal from Nassau Street. You know, Nassau Street really is the focal point when you think of Princeton, maybe more so than Witherspoon, and that's why we're looking at these finishes.
I feel like you're treading in some very dangerous
I know.
territory
That's
here.
why
I think
I'm
you
like,
might want to back off of that. I think the implications of that, Deanna,
But it's complementary to materials that are also being used on the other side of the street at the university. So I'll leave it at that. With
I think that's
the
a little
granite.
better. Yeah. Let's
Okay,
go with
thanks.
version 2. Okay.
Okay, so I'll move now, if we're just kind of finished with this conversation, I'll move on to budget. So the total project budget right now is estimated at $6.5 million. So that's inclusive of everything that you just saw, from furniture to landscape, lighting, you know, the pavers, concrete, et cetera, including the improvements to several intersections, which some of them include tabled crossings. Like there's more to this than when we first looked at this back, you know, a couple of years ago. There's been additional things added to it. So, so we're at about $6.5 million right now. And the breakdown, just sort of, we wanted to just put things in big buckets so that you can see generally how this money is spread out. You can see the sidewalks is the biggest chunk, right? I mean, these are very wide sidewalks and it's a long run. So that cost sort of is what it is. The intersection improvements that I mentioned here, around $1 million. Furniture, I wanted to just touch on the furniture for a minute. So just to touch on the bicycle rack thing and then a few other things. So the furniture right now is $350,000, give or take. So that includes 37 bicycle racks right now. So that's around average of 6 per block, 6 bicycle racks per block. We're happy to increase that number if we feel like that isn't sufficient. That, just in looking at the blocks, it seemed like that was a decent amount, but.
Yeah, and I'll comment to Leighton's concern, because we did talk about that during some of this process. One of the things we also need to address is that long-term bike parking. So there needs to be some covered bike parking, probably at Spring Street. You know, you can't have long-term covered bike parking right on the sidewalk, but you want transient people that are just coming in to have a place to park their bike, and you can't clutter it up with a bike rack at every, step. So we do have that, and we talked about that in the Heinz Plaza design, which is coming, to do something for long-term because of the tenants that are parking and they're leaving their bikes long-term. So we are aware of it, but it's a really good point.
So shouldn't the property owners of those buildings be providing the bike parking as opposed to a situation where those residents are using the municipal bike racks long-term? I see a lot of nodding heads.
Yeah, same with the trash
Well,
bins.
I don't know if you're asking me that question.
Well,
but
it was a general
happy to give you
question.
my
But
opinion.
yeah, but that's not,
No.
but that's not for Nassau Street. So we're not doing it on Nassau Street. So I'd like to put off that conversation for another day because we have a lot yet to go through on this one
Okay,
particular item.
but that was a question that Leighton brought up. So basically the answer is no
So-
more bike racks on Nassau.
The answer is that this project includes 37 new bike racks, around 6 per block. We can include more. We can include additional. I can't really speak to the residential. I'm sorry, my computer just slept. The residential bicycle parking. Many places that
Yeah.
require
So
that
we'll,
to happen
well, as
inside
Mark
the
said,
building.
that's
Yeah.
a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
But I mean, to Leighton's question, I don't think that there actually is any, in the design of a bike rack, I don't think there's any particular design that would preclude someone using it, longer than the town would like them to, right? I mean, unless you had some, I think.
No, I mean, that would just be an enforcement thing. I don't think there's anything structural you can
Leighton,
do.
if you come up with that design and patent it, you'll be a millionaire, multi-millionaire.
It may be a little thinking outside of the box, but I'm thinking of a bicycle rack where it is intended for one bicycle only, because the way bicycle racks are designed, it just lends itself to bicycles not only being attached there, but just slipping and falling over. It's, maybe that's Shark Tank, okay?
Yeah. These ones are, are single racks. It's for 2 bikes at a time, but it avoids exactly what you're concerned about, the ones on Nassau.
I'm out and about, and if you're sitting in front of Jules or in front of Olives, it's a mess. And, if we can clean it up and make it better, we'd be more welcoming and people would have a better time sitting and having lunch in Princeton. That's all.
So I just want to say, Leighton, just to underscore, the issue is that those long-term bike parkings belong to residents who live in those buildings. And so really the solution is for the owners of those buildings to provide bike parking.
Yeah.
So I look forward to having that discussion.
Yep, that's a big part of the problem.
So, all right, this is an overview of the budget. I'm happy to discuss any aspects of this. Next steps. So here we are today at the working session. We have to get an application into SHPO. We have to submit SHPO application with the HPC comments that we've received. Then in October, we plan on getting the DOT plans for review because they have to review and approve the plans. Final bid documents by the end of this year is the goal with a spring construction. We recognize that there are a couple of important dates coming up, one being Princeton University Art Museum opening, and that we would like to be as largely cleaned up as we can by that point. And then the 250th anniversary that was mentioned earlier. So those are our sort of target dates, and but we're moving as quickly as we can.
Look, we dragged it out since 2016, so, the bar is low.
I got a long list.
All right, let's do it.
Granite curbs, the existing granite curbs.
Yes.
What are you doing with them?
So they can be reused. That is an option. We were proposing initially to replace them with 12-inch curbs. Right today they are 8-inch curbs. This is an aesthetic improvement. It's not a necessary improvement. So we walked it today and we were discussing exactly that, right? So the curbs are 8-inch granite curbs right now. We were proposing to replace them with 12-inch granite curbs. We are trying to run the numbers on what the difference is between those. It's probably a couple $100,000 to replace them. And that's as far as we've gotten with that. The one detail that we have to work out is some of the curbing at the corner of Witherspoon is 6 inches, so it's actually a thinner curb, so we have to decide what we're doing there. If we're going to leave those intact or replace that with the new curb as well.
Okay. Let me just try to run through my list quick, and we'll just, short answers are fine, so don't worry about insulting me. The sidewalk, okay, we have the concrete sidewalk. So the color, the tint that we're going to use, are we going to hopefully be aiming for something that's readily available? Which I know changes over years, but I mean, the biggest question is what happens when the water pipe, sewer pipe, whatever breaks for, Justin's building on Nassau Street that he's going to buy tomorrow, and then he's got to rip up the sidewalk, and we want him to match the same color that's there. So I'm just, as long as we're thinking about it.
We're thinking about it, yes.
Okay. The exposed aggregate, I'm not a huge fan, but that's whatever. But I'm more worried about the finish, right? Because depending how you do that, some people do it and it's a pretty rough finish, and some people do it and it's not a rough finish. So I know you have a whole bunch of competing needs there, but what is your pie in the sky hope for finished product going to accomplish?
In terms of what the finish will be, or how to handle that variation, that is the number one challenge with tinted concrete, is that tinted or any finish on a concrete is that over time streetscapes are replaced, utilities go in, and you have to replace it. Even pours day to day. Yeah. Oh, exposed aggregate specifically?
Yeah.
It's the same, it's the same issue. You try to specify. Exposed aggregate is not done the same way it was done years ago, so it can be more uniform now. But it's handled the same way. You write a specification and you try to make it as tight as possible, and people get as close as they can. And over time, it's going to look a little different, and then over time it wears and it all sort of blends together.
Okay. I just want to make sure
Yeah.
people understand exposed aggregate I think brings other future challenges. The granite paver condition at the corners where you have a large section, what I think is a large section of pavers. Do you have a breakdown on average what those corners are costing us to have all that granite? And again, you can say no, and I can figure it out later.
I don't have that broken out separately right now. I just have that lump sidewalk cost.
Yep. Okay. I'm just concerned, right? Basically, a lot of my questions are going to have to do with the total cost of this project.
Yeah.
So I'm just concerned that feature is a pretty expensive feature. And I know there's a balance here between, hey, you want it to look really, really nice. And, I don't want to strip everything out of it, obviously, but at the same token, I just want to make sure we're being as balanced and reasonable as possible between cost and aesthetics.
Understood.
Granted, overall, I'm worried about slippery. How slippery is the granite going to be? So, again, I don't know how much option there is on finish, on the surface of the granite, but
There's a very wide variety of finishes that you can get on granite.
all right, so we're not going to create,
The ones that are used for pavers are meant for walking on.
Okay.
So the surface is meant.
No
is-
ice skating
is made
rinks.
with that texture. Yeah. You're not
Okay.
going to slip on it.
Thanks.
Well, I don't want to, I'm not going on record saying.
not like a kitchen counter, right? Any idea what the granite treatment by the tree wells, if you do a couple of those per block, any idea what that cost
Of the
is?
cost, or?
Yeah, cost.
I don't have that broken. I didn't break out those individual items.
Okay. So those granite sets, wherever they are, how do they work, and how do you maintain them so that you still get the water to pass through them?
So the way that they work is it's similar to the permeable pavers that are on Witherspoon, and we were, some of the issues there were brought to our attention with the potential for, having to clean them out, et
Yeah.
cetera. So that they would have to be maintained the same way any permeable paver would be maintained, right? Which is vacuuming time to time and replacing the gravel that's in between. If you don't, basically what happens over time is they just silt up and it looks like any other paver. It just becomes not permeable.
Yeah, right, the water just doesn't go through it.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. At that point, it's not functioning, but it's,
Right, so to me, it sounds great.
yes,
And when it works, it is great.
yep,
But I'm just concerned about the operational cost and time and effort to maintain it.
Yeah.
Because there's a cost to put it in.
Mhm.
And if we are not going to have the resources and the equipment and the personnel, et cetera, to maintain it, then anyway.
yes.
The landscape beds by the corners.
Yes.
How are we, to me, the corner it looks great. But I know how most people are when they're crossing the street. They don't give a crap about what's in their way. If I want to save myself from walking 13 inches, I'm going to walk across that little landscaped area. So are we thinking of doing anything to help protect it so people aren't actually walking across
I mean,
these
at the
things?
corners, we weren't putting fences at the corners. You could. We've done this many times, and you'd be surprised. People pay attention, and they tend to not walk through them, surprisingly. It's a different story with along parking. When people are getting out of their cars, they will walk through them.
Yeah, of course.
But at the corners, people tend to move to the right spot.
Okay. The bump outs, which in theory are great ideas, but in how they work in the real world. And I'm really concerned about the ones we did at Witherspoon Street. Because if you drive down Nassau Street and you look at how people use the bump outs, the pedestrians come to the edge or beyond the edge of the bump outs, and now they're either in the street or so close to the street that when you have delivery trucks and any large vehicle going by, it's actually problematic. So I'm just concerned about is there a way to keep people from being on the edge of the bump out? And are we paying attention to how far the bump out is going? Because at some point, I think it's counterproductive having such a large bump out. It sounds like it's a great thing, but I think we're actually making some of the intersections more dangerous.
So this is something that we're looking at very closely. This, again, we walked today. The purpose of me coming down earlier today was specifically for the corners and bump outs. And we looked at every one that we're bumping out together, and we're adjusting them. Some of them we're pulling back, some of them we're increasing the radius a little bit to address some of these concerns. But generally speaking, bump outs are a safety measure that are recommended, so.
No, I know
Yeah,
I know that.
But you have to do it within the context of the specific location, right? So that's why, there were certain corners where we looked at them together and we said, you know what, this probably isn't the right idea here, and we're pulling those back.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's really concerning what you're describing about what you've observed at the existing bump outs. But I know that there was a lot of discussion in advance of those bump outs, which is why we were going to have those, the retractable.
Bollards.
Thank you, yes. Weren't we going to have those to provide some protection to make sure that there couldn't be any vehicular? No?
I think the bollard discussion was about for being able to close off Witherspoon Street if we wanted to do like a street fair or something like that.
Okay, but wasn't there, okay, maybe the bollards weren't there, but there was something like planters or there was supposed to be something so that what you were describing, Mark, there was some buffer there.
Yeah.
No?
Well, I think when we look at the bump outs, and I understand why we're using them, and again, I think the theory is tremendous, but I think 10 years from now, people are going to look at accident statistics and say, well, maybe these aren't doing everything we hope they would achieve. So whether the curb on the side stays raised and you're only meeting the street on the front of it where you're actually hitting the crosswalk, or maybe you're putting a planter there, I don't know. But as long as you guys are thinking about it, I mean, if you go spend time at Nassau and Witherspoon Street and you see how people use those bump outs, I tell you.
But Mark, wouldn't they, I mean, even if there's no bump out, even if it's like whatever the size of the bump out is, people are always going to go to the very edge, right? Unless you have some
Right, but
buffer.
without the bump out, in most places, you have a parking space not too far away, so the vehicle making the turn can't go right to the edge of where the person is standing. With the bump out, the vehicle can literally come within inches of somebody.
Okay.
So anyway,
This is concerning.
it's-
Michelle, did you want to?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the whole idea of the bump out is for pedestrian safety. And I mean, I'm walking it every day, many times a day. And what I find is, and people are just kind of pushing it. They're pushing the lights and they're crossing even when they don't have a light. So they have the right of way, but it does, I mean, maybe they just feel so much safer that they're just taking advantage of crossing.
Yeah.
But I see them do it all the time. But I don't know that not having, I think having bump outs, it seems would be making it safer than not having.
Yeah, and I'm not saying we shouldn't
But
have them.
it's just the design of the
Yeah, no, I
bump
just
out,
want us to
yeah.
make sure we're thinking about, how do we make the bump out as safe as possible?
Yeah, got it.
Right, because we have to protect people, you have to protect people from themselves.
Yeah. I think our engineering staff have a really good sense of how to make these things safe. And it's not like they're brand new. They've been in place for 20 years, and there is data, and they do make people safer. It's a fact. It's not like an experiment that we're waiting to see how it turns out.
Oh, that's fine. Whatever. It's still, go stand there. What are we doing with the kiosks, the 2 kiosks?
I think that's
That is
TBD, right?
That's TBD. That will be a conversation that will be occurring at the same pace as the completion of the design project.
Okay, as long as we have that
All the
conversation.
controversial items are held off because we wanted to make it to Triumph. But, you know, at this point, we're missing it. So, Deanna, you could just add them back in.
Well, I just want to throw all this.
What do you mean? It's
into
only
the mix.
it's only 4:45. We got plenty of time.
Yeah. Anyway, Michelle.
If you're done, Mark, I just wanted to summarize in terms of the budget. $6.5 million is a huge price tag. It's I think it's about 8 blocks. If we're talking about doing this once every 40 years, it's our main street. It's our brand. And I'm really thankful that we have Arturial on board with so much expertise in terms of the materials. And I feel, if you amortize it over 40 years, it's $162,000 a year for our main focus. And I just think it's our brand. It's what Princeton is, and I think we need to put our best foot forward. So I love the granite. Great idea to reuse it if we can save a little here and there and nibble at the edges. But the bottom line is that this, I think, is a beautiful design. So I thank you.
Great.
Yeah, just those 100,000 here, 100,000 there starts to add up. But, David.
Yeah, and I just want to spend a little of that money that we just saved on the granite curbs. I like the idea of reusing the curbs if we can, but I would love to see us do something a little more custom with the bike racks. Those U-shaped, I've been in a lot of towns where they have something that's sculptural, that's specific to the town, and you can really make a statement with a custom design on the bike racks. And I don't even think we'd spend all the money that we're saving by changing the width of the granite curbs.
Yeah, I just want to echo, I've been in these meetings, and I want to thank you for a superb job. And my recommendations or suggestions are just tweaks to what I think is a fantastic job that you've done. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I just want to say, I think there, Deanna, because there's more, you're going to have to come back again, right? With some of these other things that weren't included tonight? Or is this the penultimate or the final?
This is supposed to be it. What I suggest is that we could work on getting the answers to the questions that were raised tonight, and Jim and I and Justin can come back and present that.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. I mean, I think basically the consensus is that overall this is fantastic, but to Mark's points, you know, if there's some ways that we can save money and it doesn't impact the overall impression, you know, of course we'd love to do that, and thank you, Mark, you know. But I have to agree with Michelle. I mean, sometimes we come here and, you know, there's, you know, a lot of money. I'm going to pick on the vehicles again, but a lot of money spent on trucks and, I don't know, things that, all sorts of vehicles that do all sorts of things. And, you know, this is, to Michelle's point, this is the center of our town. It is a town that a lot of people visit. It's a historic town. And I think we should, you know, put our best foot forward there in the center, and with a, you know, make sure that it's durable, because my God, this has taken so long. This will be 10 years by the time we finish this. So whatever you do, you really do need to make sure that it lasts 40 years so that it can be amortized on Michelle's schedule. But also, I just wanted to thank Michelle for finding Arterial, because you are really unique in the state, the only firm that does what you do. And it's been such a help to us. That's why we've finally been able to move forward more rapidly, and you've done a great job. And so thank you, Michelle. Deanna, thank you for your patience with us. And thanks so much for a great design.
Thank you. That was very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just don't want you to think any of my questions or comments are meant to detract from the overall great job. Just I'm a facilities guy, very practical guy, so those are the questions I got to ask. But I do agree.
That's great.
You guys have done a tremendous job.
Good job.
All right, do we have okay, what else do we want to beat up on here? No, I'm sorry. Any other questions or comments that we need to share? Oh, we do, okay. No, that's great. Okay. Hey, Adam, we have a couple of hands up. Can we just ask people to come in and see what they want to? Might as well. Big expense. And Jessica? Jessica?
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, now we can, yes.
Oh, hi. I'm actually right at the corner of Witherspoon and Nassau as I speak with you. It's so perfect because I've been watching and listening to all the things you've been saying, and it's really impressive. It's beautiful. All the plans are amazing. But no one's talked about traffic. And a lot of people have brought up pedestrians. They brought up bike parking, which is wonderful and very needed. And I agree that, you know, we could, you know, things are looking a little bit dated and old and worn. But it's hard to imagine the things you're talking about when it's not safe to bike and it's not safe to walk. So I would hope that in the money that you're spending, you would allocate a certain amount to some element of traffic study, especially as relates to our main artery, as all of the reasons that you've brought up. Please focus on the fact that if we continue to see the increased density and we continue to see the increased traffic, no matter how beautiful the road is and how beautiful the sidewalk is, it's not going to be safe for our inhabitants. I urge you and implore you to think about safety. And when you're spending this quantity of money, to think about the fact that people are not safe as we stand right now. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jessica. All right, Adam, can we bring in the next person? Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Thank you. If you could just say your name for us.
Hi, this is Pallavi Nuka.
Yep.
Thank you so much for this presentation. This looks like a fantastic design. A couple of comments. Going back to the comment earlier about Princeton's brand, I just want to emphasize that part of Princeton's brand is the charm and the walkability. And it's really, I understand the challenge of trying to design a Nassau streetscape when you want to make it walkable, but it's one of the main connecting roads in the county. So with regard to that point, I just want to say that given the money that this project is estimated at, it would be good to see a couple of more safety improvements that could be included in this. And specifically, it would be great to see a raised crosswalk at all the crossings and not just the alley crossings. I think with regard, the bump outs that are proposed in the design are a terrific improvement on what we already have. I think if we could go one step further and raise the crosswalks at Palmer Square, at Nassau Street, and at Washington, that would be amazing. And a huge boost for pedestrian safety. As you know, Mayor Frida pointed out, people tend to cross willy-nilly and feel like, you know, while it's hard to control what people can do, at least we can make them a little bit safer while they're doing it, both for the vehicles and for the pedestrians. The other point I'd like to raise is just with regard to the furniture. One of the nice things about the current furniture is that the benches do have backs, and that provides a little bit of protection between a very busy street and very active parking along that street as cars are always pulling in and out. Having those benches makes people who are sitting there feel a little bit more secure, and it's a little bit more of an intimate setting to have a conversation. So I would encourage you to think about that, that people may not, who are on the sidewalk or sitting on the sidewalk at the benches, they need a little bit of a buffer and a protection from the activity on the road with the cars, with people exiting parked cars and so on. So those are my 2 cents, and thanks to Council and Arterial for all the work on this.
Thank you. Okay, it looks like all the hands are up, so we'll end the work session, and thank you very much for being here. Thanks for your time.
Actually,
Thank you for your
before
time.
we close up, I do want to just respond on Pallavi's comments. So while we focus today the presentation on the sidewalk materials and the sidewalk improvements, as Dave alluded to, that as we moved from the concept phase into this design phase, we added in pedestrian crossing improvements. So down by Thomas Sweets, we are incorporating a raised crosswalk across Nassau Street that had come about as part of a pedestrian safety audit project that DOT had envisioned. Their timeline to construct it was not until, I think, 2027. So that has been incorporated into our project, and I think it may include a rectangular rapid flashing beacon as well, and lighting. At the crossing at South Tulane, that crossing is being reimagined, shifted. It will also be a raised crosswalk. And we are considering, at DOT's suggestion, a rapid flashing rectangular beacon there as well. Down at Palmer Square, there will be a curb extension in front of the church, which is in the intersection of the 2 Palmer Squares on the university side. We are also doing, creating a concrete pedestrian refuge in place of existing striping at one of the crosswalks. So we are making significant improvements to those pedestrian crossings that do not occur at signalized intersections. The Washington Van Devender, You know, we do have the exclusive pedestrian phase. We are working on changing the timing at Witherspoon as well with DOT, because that should also operate the same way. So I think all of our improvements combined with DOT's improvements at the signalized intersections really goes a long way to address the pedestrian safety issues that we have had.
Thank you, Deanna. That's great. Okay. Thank you very much again, and enjoy the rest of your evening wherever you're going. Maybe triumph for the next 15 minutes. Okay, moving on. We have a public hearing, ordinance 2024-33, bond ordinance providing for the replacement of the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system at the municipal building in and by Princeton in the county of Mercer, New Jersey, appropriating $1,200,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $1,140,000 bonds or notes of Princeton to finance part of the cost thereof. And obviously, the public hearing's tonight. Would someone make a motion? Thank you, Leighton. Is there a second? Thank you, Leticia. Questions and comments? All right, why are we doing this?
That nice cool air that you can feel in here right now, we want it to continue. The cooling system that we currently have in the building is original, and it is on its last legs. We've been working with a consultant to design a more energy efficient and environmentally friendly system. When we went out to bid, we're actually on our second round of bids right now, and the prices they're higher than we anticipated. There's certain items that we had rolled into the bid that could have been outsourced in a different way, but in general, we think the prices that we're getting are reasonable. Unfortunately, we just did not have enough budgeted through previous year's capital budget process, and so we need to supplement that to be able to make a bid award to do this replacement.
So what is the total cost of this project?
It's about $2 million. We have applied to PSE&G as well to get some energy efficiency rebates to offset some of the cost.
Thank you. Michelle, will you?
That was my question. I figured, I knew you were way ahead of me, but I just thought I'd bring that up. PSE&G is being very aggressive about helping. I know from my own personal experience, so thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the governing body? Okay. Any questions from anyone here in the room? No? Any questions from anybody online? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and could we have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Perron-Lambros?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Sachs?
Yes.
Ms. Fraga?
Yes.
Mr. Newland?
Yes.
Carried.
Thank you. We have two ordinances to introduce. Ordinance 2024-34, bond ordinance providing for the acquisition of property and various capital improvements to such property in and by Princeton in the county of Mercer, New Jersey, appropriating $50 million, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $49,500,000 bonds or notes of Princeton to finance part of the cost thereof. The public hearing will be October 14th, 2024. Is there a motion? Thank you, Leticia. Michelle's got the second. Roll call vote.
Ms. Perron-Lambros?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Sachs?
Yes.
Ms. Fraga?
Yes.
Mr. Newland?
Yes.
Carried.
Thank you. Ordinance 2024-35, an ordinance by the municipality of Princeton, County of Mercer, State of New Jersey, authorizing the acquisition of real property by negotiation, purchase, commendation, or eminent domain of the real property located at 101 Walnut Lane, Princeton, and designated as Block 31.01, Lot 1.05, and Block 7301, Lot 1, on the official tax map of the municipality of Princeton. The public hearing will be September 23rd, 2024. Is there a motion? Mia's got the motion. Letitia's got the second. And that is a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Perron-Lambros?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Sachs?
Yes.
Ms. Fraga?
Yes.
Mr. Newland?
Yes.
Carried.
Thank you. We have 3 resolutions. 24268, resolution of the Mayor and Council of Princeton to accept the Mobility and Transportation Innovation Program grant to fund the installation of real-time digital signage at 10 transit stop locations along the Princeton Muni Transit route. Thank you, Leighton. Thank you, Leticia. Any questions or comments? I see none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
24269, resolution of the Mayor and Council of Princeton authorizing the award of a professional services agreement to, I never say this right. Skarinsky? Whatever. Hollenbeck, LLC, whatever. They can yell at me later. For special environmental legal services for $165,000. Is there a motion? Thank you, David. Is there a second? Thank you, Leighton. Any questions or comments? Mia?
So this is the ongoing saga of River Road, right?
Yes.
Is there any end in sight? Or can, I think it's been a while since we last heard from them. Just so members of the public know, this is actually not residents of Princeton suing the town. This is the town suing the insurance company, or litigating with the insurance company to be reimbursed for
$1 million, right?
coverage for claims related to the River Road, right? So it's been a while since we had an update from our friends at Skurinsky. I think if we could schedule that, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you. Other questions or comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
24270, resolution of the Mayor and Council of Princeton and the County of Mercer, New Jersey, making application to the local finance board pursuant to NJSA 40A 2-7D and NJSA 40A 2-11C N. Is there a motion? Thank you, Michelle. Leighton's got the second. Questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
7 items on the consent agenda. If nobody needs any of those pulled out, someone could move it in block. Thank you, David. Moving them all, right?
Yes.
Yep, thanks. Mia's got the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
David,
Move to adjourn.
is there a second? Thank you, Leighton. All in favor, say aye.
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 We're done. Good night, goodbye.